Shalom, family. Good to see you all. Hope you're doing well. Well, we're going to talk about Rob Reiner. It's a story I've been looking at since it broke in the news about a week ago. If you don't know what happened, his own son, Nick Reiner, took him and his wife out. He stabbed both of them and unalived them both. Now, I do know that he made a court appearance this past week. And they said Nick showed no emotion. He showed no remorse whatsoever for taking his parents out. And, it reminds me of the Bible where it tells you how fathers against sons, mothers, having conflicts with their daughters. It reminds me of that, and we do see these stories every now and then where there's a conflict between parents and their children, and somebody is unalived, you know? In fact, it was like a week ago, I was online looking at some, throwback videos, and it was a part in it where it talked about how Marvin Gaye's own father took him out. If many of you remember that, he was murdered by his own father. So these things do occur. They always occurred, and in these final days, it's going to be ramped up. You're going to see these divisions ramping up. Well, Rob Reiner did not care for Donald Trump, and he would openly, show his disdain for Donald Trump. So Donald Trump did not like him. So when the news broke that Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, were unalived by their own son, Donald Trump did not have nothing good to say about it. Well, his own party kind of split from Donald Trump. They didn't agree with what he did. And some of them even spoke out against it. One thing I'm also noticing, I don't know many of you, I have noticed the Republican Party is so divided now, more than I've ever seen them divided in my lifetime. That party is literally falling apart. They got so many divisions going on, and it didn't exactly start with Charlie Kirk, but I think Charlie Kirk, his unaliving just kind of amplified it. But I don't believe it started with them at all. But y'all, I'm going to go ahead and share my video so that we can get into this one. It's been quite interesting. Okay. Well, Donald Trump lacks empathy. So I don't know why anybody would be looking for empathy from Donald Trump anyway. I mean, even when it came down to Charlie Kirk, I remember when they were asking him about Charlie Kirk, and I think it was like the very next day after Charlie Kirk was unalive, they were talking to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump started talking about his ballroom. He really didn't have much to say about Charlie at all. The question was about Charlie, but he just went into talking about his ballroom getting built. So he doesn't have a lot of empathy. What kind of empathy are you going to get from some well-to-do, rich 80-year-old white male? You're just not going to get no empathy from nobody like that. So anyway, y'all, let's get into it. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. I don't think they were close. Tafaya, Donald Trump and Charlie, no, I don't believe they were that close. And that's my opinion. I don't believe they were that close. There's been a lot of disputes over that ballroom being built with the construction company. In fact, Donald Trump fired the construction company and he hired a new one. And maybe I'll talk about that a little more. But he's been having a lot of conflict over getting that ballroom built. It has not been an easy process at all. Thank you, everybody.
Was Donald Trump speaking poorly about Rob Reiner the thing that got some Trump supporters to finally say, yes, I voted for Donald Trump, but I don't support him regarding this? That was the thing to get them to say, I don't support him doing this. I made a video regarding Donald Trump speaking poorly about Rob Reiner after his death, and I was genuinely surprised by the amount of comments I got from Trump supporters saying, I voted for him, but I don't support him in talking poorly about Rob Reiner. It has even gotten to the point where I saw a die-hard Trumpy that I used to go to college with even speak out against it. Haven't seen them speak out about other things that the Trump administration has done, like releasing power-hungry ICE agents who are brutally attacking people from our communities, tearing down a historical part of the White House, Signalgate, just to name a few. I don't have enough time in a TikTok video to say all the horrible things that the Trump administration has done. All of those things, dead silent on, or ultimately saying that they approve of it. But man, when it came to Rob Reiner, so many Trump supporters finally said, nope, this is where I draw the line. I don't support this. Glad we know where that line is drawn.
Disrespectful, inappropriate, unpresidential. And these are the comments from Republicans on Capitol Hill today. Forget the Democrats for a sec about the comments that President Trump posted on social media this morning about the tragic murders of Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. This all started this morning when Trump said that the murders were, quote, reportedly due to the anger Rob Reiner caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession with President Trump. So that struck a lot of people as really in horrible taste and lacking basic humanity and compassion. Congressman Don Bacon, Republican of Nebraska, reached out to me and said, quote, I'd expect to hear something like this from a drunk guy at a bar, not the president of the United States. Can the president be presidential? Republican Congressman Tom Massey of Kentucky said, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. I guess my elected Republican colleagues, the vice president and White House staff, will just ignore it because they're afraid. I challenge anyone to defend it. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said, this is a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemies, and should be met with empathy. Interestingly, President Trump's comments about Rob Reiner and his wife being murdered are in stark contrast with what Rob Reiner said after Charlie Kirk was murdered. He went on Piers Morgan's show and said the following about the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk.
I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service at the memorial they had was exactly right. And what she said to me was beautiful and absolutely, she forgave his assassin. And I think that is admirable.
Quite a contrast from what President Trump said about Rob Reiner.
And we saw the major fallout happen yesterday with his statements on the tragic murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. MAGA faithful reacted big time. And they called it out. It's all over social media. People, his supporters, including myself, we didn't appreciate hearing the president, who himself was shot, and after Charlie Kirk's horrific murder, we didn't appreciate, even if you don't agree with Rob Reiner politically, there was no reason for his statement to be the statement that he made.
The president called him bad for our country and said he was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned.
I thought that statement was absolutely completely below the office of the president of the United States, classless, and it was just wrong. From my understanding, what I've seen on the news, it was drug abuse and mental illness. And many families across America deal with family members that are drug addicts or have mental health issues. And I think the president should have responded with compassion and talked about those issues. He didn't have to make it about politics.
So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
We hear about Susie Wiles all the time. I just got to ask, where was Susie Wiles? Where was any grown-up in the White House? Where were they? Where were they? They had to know that even for this president, who aggressively goes after his critics, who's broken barriers time and time again, but even for this president with the low standards that he's allowed to get by on, somebody in that White House had to know this would cause conservatives, this would cause his most fierce supporters in the MAGA base to be deeply disturbed at how much it would damage him. This is not about hurting libs. This isn't about libs. This is about Donald Trump hurting Donald Trump. Donald Trump hurting the White House. Donald Trump hurting the MAGA base. Like Eric Erickson said, people in the MAGA base are exhausted by this. Who is in the White House that could say, Mr. President, you can't send that out?
Well, this has been one of our themes in this last month or two as the president has really been in a political slump. There's no one in the White House tell him no, and that's by design. Social media account is the president himself or Dan Scavino, who's one of his longtime advisors. They're the ones who have the keys to this. But someone in the White House response staff, they put it out. The reflexive instinct is just to fight, to double down on whatever the president says. This should not be a challenging moment. This is a moment to be a human, to express sympathy, horror, sadness, and he's simply not able to do it. When that Truth Social post came on, it came just before we came off the air yesterday. I literally gasped on air, and I'm the one who always reads the Truth Social post. I am rarely surprised by what he says. I was yesterday, and it was right at the end of the show, so we didn't talk about it then because it was so outrageous. I thought maybe this one was a hoax.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to double check.
I think a lot of his supporters said throughout the day they thought it was a hoax, and then they came back and they said sadly, we looked at it. This isn't a hoax, Mr. President. Please take this down. That's from his supporters.
He said it.
I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned.
And two things. The only defenders I found of this is a really hardcore, like Laura Loomer defended it, and a few people like that. But usually even acolytes of President Trump distance themselves from this. And we mentioned Charlie Kirk, and I'm glad we played that clip there. Rob Reiner showed such humanity of it. But after Charlie Kirk was killed, let's remember the hunt that people on the right went on about people who dared say anything negative about Charlie Kirk. They should lose their jobs. They should do this. And now we have the president of the United States take it that much further.
Well, Brianna, a number of Republican lawmakers have started to criticize President Donald Trump over these posts that he made relating to the death of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner. We have heard from both centrist and conservative lawmakers who have said the president crossed the line with these types of comments, turning to politics instead of focusing on the tragedy at hand. Congressman Mike Lawler, who's from a swing district in New York, posted on social media, quote, "This statement is wrong. Regardless of one's political views, no one should be subjected to violence, let alone at the hands of their own son. It's a horrible tragedy that should engender sympathy and compassion from everyone in our country, period." Lawler is one of the president's closest allies up here on Capitol Hill. We've also heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has recently become more critical of the president, who wrote, "This is a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemies." Then you have Congressman Thomas Massie, also someone who is frequently critical of this White House, saying, regardless of how you felt about Rob Reiner, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. He challenged some of his Republican colleagues to come up with some explanation to defend the president here, but so far it doesn't seem like that has happened. Now, just a short while ago, House Speaker Mike Johnson did comment on the death of Rob Reiner, expressing sorrow for the incident, but he notably did not answer reporters' questions about President Trump's post relating to Reiner, as he alleged that he had died due to Trump derangement syndrome. Now, Rob Reiner was very active in Democratic politics and was a frequent critic of President Donald Trump. But even some Republicans have said that the president simply went too far with these posts on Truth Social this morning.
That's where our expectations are for him. And for somebody to simply say that the president of the United States
when somebody dies in the fashion that they did should just be quiet. We need to all look at ourselves and say that is the standard that we hold for the president of the United States, that this man that is 80 years old is incapable of actually having empathy. This man who's 80 years old is incapable of being an example for our children, regardless of Democrat or Republican. And the bigger condemnation I have is for those individuals who call themselves evangelical Christians who surround the president of the United States, but then look at this type of nonsense and turn a blind eye to it. He has a prayer council. They lay hands on him with what? Gloves? Mittens? I mean, that ain't getting through. I mean, who are they praying to? And so I have a great deal of disdain for, and listen, there are people who will say, I love Donald Trump's policies. I hate the man that he is. That is just a very, very weird paradigm that I'm not sure I could find myself in.
I've to it. Any person who calls themselves a Christian and supports Trump and are not seriously disturbed by the comments that Trump made about Rob Reiner's death is a disgusting human being. Not only not a Christian, in my estimation, or at least one who falls woefully inadequate of what a Christian should be. This person is disgusting because the comments that Trump made about Rob Reiner's death is completely disgusting. In a true social post, Trump essentially said that Rob Reiner caused his own death because he suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, which drives people around him mad. And so the inference one can draw is that since Rob Reiner, according to Trump, suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, he drove his son mad or out of his mind, drove him crazy. And that was the reason why then the son turned around and murdered his parents. Just to sit up and think of something that disgusting is very, very troubling, especially for the president of the United States of America. We're in a very sad and dark place in this country. Why couldn't the president just held it in? We know that Rob Reiner was not a fan of Trump, not a supporter. We know that he has used his abilities as a movie maker to express his disdain of Trump. But why couldn't Trump take the high ground and at least just express condolences for Rob Reiner? After all, that's exactly what Rob Reiner did after the murder of Charlie Kirk.
When you first heard about the murder of Charlie Kirk, what was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Well, horror, absolute horror. And I unfortunately saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service that the Memorial Day had was exactly right. And totally, I believe, I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful and absolutely, when she forgave his assassin.
Grace at its best.
Well, Trump don't take no high ground. I don't even know what he was talking about. when does Trump take the high ground? Trump will get up at 3 a.m., get on Truth Social, and go on these long rants, call people all kinds of names. That's what he does. He don't take no high ground anywhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, it just goes to show you, you know what? These folks are so divided, it's not even funny. The only time they will come together if it's over some racism stuff, like some, people going in a donut shop getting called the N-word, and the white woman gets fired, she gets money. They'll come together for that. But as far as everything else, they are nothing but divided. They are nothing but divided over everything. This is leadership in America, y'all. This is leadership in America. This is what it looks like. Mhm. You know Trump don't sleep. He don't sleep. He's up every day at 3 a.m. on Truth Social. I ain't seen no president do no crap like this ever. He's by far the only one that gets up early in the morning and he's all over social media ranting. Mhm. Yeah, unbelievable. Y'all, I'm gonna be doing I haven't decided whether I'm gonna do it today or tomorrow, but I'm gonna be doing the Amazon driver that got spat on by a white man that was on a bicycle. I found out a little more about that. Apparently, y'all, the white man that spat on this Amazon driver who was a brother, they're claiming he's a white pastor. But that doesn't matter because we know what kind of history white pastors have in this country. So that's not shocking. So if I don't touch on it today, I'll definitely get to it tomorrow. And, this is a big holiday week because, Christmas is this week. And also, we're not that far from New Year's. So, God, we're almost in 2026 on the Gentile calendar, y'all. This year did go by fast. It most certainly did. Hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here and be on the lookout for my upcoming video. I believe the next one I'm doing is Donald Trump has banned the lottery for green cards, the green card lottery. Yeah, he just permanently shut that down after I think the Brown University shooting where they found out the shooter was an immigrant. And y'all remember MIT as well. So that has been shut completely down. He is literally stopping all of these people from entering the country. So we'll be talking about that. That will be at 3:45. So I will see you then. Shalom, family.